specifically this tournament. So we are starting up, and it looks like AllAboutYou is going to be spawning at the top as the purple Terran, and BioOrMech is going to be spawning as the red Terran at the left. And this is going to be on Python. As you can see, the face over here, the face of the Python. And I am lagging terribly because of fraps. There we go. Okay, I'm good now. So anyway.
Thought there was some confusion with the minerals, was worried there might have been a bug in the map, but apparently it's not an issue. I thought he started off with 7 minerals, scaring us for a second there.
Yeah, but it looks like BioOrMech and AllAboutYou are starting their supply depots. They aren't blocking off with them, so this is going to be interesting. Usually Terran versus Terran, you won't see many block offs because there isn't that much of a worry for rushes, but if it's like TVZ, you're going to see a lot of block offs on the ramp.
Yeah, definitely. You can definitely have the problem of just Marines shooting those supply depots from down below, because your Marines, with the distance the supply depot adds, you're just not going to outrange units with the same range as you.
And it looks
just
like,
not going to happen.
And it looks like BioOrMech is going to start harassing AllAboutYou's SCV, who's trying to build a barracks. BioOrMech does scout AllAboutYou's base over here, and AllAboutYou is going to put up a refinery. So both players don't really know what's going on in each other's base other than their first scout. AllAboutYou getting a reactor, so he's going very marine heavy.
I wouldn't be surprised if he does exactly what you're saying, flips that and gets the double Hellions. Those Hellions are just so potent against Marines, and since the siege tank changed, Marines just see so much more action in TVT.
Yeah, and it looks like AllAboutYou trying to push in with his SCV, but 4 of those Marines are going to be able to push away that SCV and prevent it from seeing what's going on in BioOrMech's base. AllAboutYou also guarding his ramp with one of his Marines as well. That SCV is going to the xel'naga watchtower over here. And let's see, AllAboutYou has gotten, or BioOrMech's SCV is making its way up to AllAboutYou's ramp, but it looks like he's just going to stop in front of the natural instead.
And we have that starport going down for BioOrMech. Finally, players starting to diverge ever so slightly. But right now, AllAboutYou, very interesting. He is starting to mass up a lot more gas than you generally expect him to, almost topping out to 200, and still has not a unit that requires gas able to be produced. I'm going to be curious what he decides to do with that gas.
Yeah, and he hasn't gotten his second refinery either. Usually, if you want to go siege tanks or any mech or siege mech units, you want to get that double gas in order and fully saturated. And it looks like BioOrMech is doing just that, and he is getting a couple medevacs as well to help support his Marine army. And AllAboutYou also getting a command center, trying to get his economy up. So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, definitely an interesting start by both players. I haven't seen a lot of this factory first. You probably might have want to consider pulling those SCVs out of gas and allow for more minerals if he's going to go for that quick command center. But now he's finally getting a gas spent on the form of a starport. But much later, we'll see if the harassment probably going to come from BioOrMech is going to be enough to slow down this macro from AllAboutYou.
Yeah, AllAboutYou is also getting a tech lab on top of his factory, so he might switch it up to siege tanks. We'll see. He does have a lot of gas saved up.
Yeah, probably actually siege tech and siege tank probably about to go down. Not getting the siege tech yet. Has the required minerals and gas, but not getting it yet.
And it looks like AllAboutYou has pushed his Hellions and Marines to the front to see if he can do anything, but there are a lot of Marines up front. If those Hellions get in good position, though, they could burn away a lot of these Marines. And it looks like AllAboutYou is starting to push up, and those Hellions are trying to take out as many of those Marines as possible, trying to get in good position. But BioOrMech has the high ground advantage, and he managed to take out most of AllAboutYou's units.
Yeah, just getting himself in that choke point was just absolutely terrible. There's 2 Hellions just firing a straight line down through all light units. Both Hellions and Marines are, as you know, light units. And those Hellions just do terrible damage, especially when you do them the privilege of just grouping up nice and pretty for him.
And it looks like BioOrMech has grouped all his units into his medevac, so he could be possibly doing a drop in the shadow over here, or in the fog of war.
AllAboutYou's got a Viking on the field. Is the Viking going to find the dropship? No, passes right by. Dropship getting the units into AllAboutYou's base. Going to hopefully get a little bit of damage on that economy. 3 Hellions will almost nearly one-shot an SCV.
And they do have the pre-igniter, so they're going to do some massive damage over here. And oh man, he's taking a lot of those SCVs out. And oh, those tanks are trying to take out those Hellions. Trying to get those... But, oh, is it going to burn some more? Oh, it finally goes down, but not before completely getting All About You out of position. His SCV is forced to move back and losing a lot of them. And there's also...
Yeah, he lost a solid 5 or 6 SCVs there.
And it looks like a reactor is going up on top of the starport. So we might see more Vikings or more medevacs coming out of BioOrMech. He is also getting a tech lab on top of the barracks. So he might be transitioning to a more Marauder-heavy build.
And BioOrMech finally throwing down his command center.
Yeah, he is throwing down the command center, but at the same time, AllAboutYou is starting to push out. Both haven't researched their siege mode yet, so they're not going to be able to siege up. AllAboutYou is getting combat shields as well, so we might see a Marine heavy build continue coming out of those barracks. He is getting another barracks as well, and he is continuing to get Vikings to, I guess, patrol the skies for Medrox.
Yeah, AllAboutYou going for that know and love tank Viking build. His siege tech is almost done, just absolutely finishing right now. I feel like he's going to be able to do some terrible damage to BioOrMech, because BioOrMech is going to be caught with his pants down, and a group of ball of Marines that are just going to explode from those siege tanks. Siege tank nerf slowed down their damage, but still a ton of damage. But actually not even sieging yet.
And
he's forced to back up.
BioOrMech actually did siege up, and it looks like AllAboutYou got that Viking in order to get the high ground over here, so he can get sight on, get a couple of these units down.
And he's going to snipe the medevac.
Yeah, the medevac does go down, and a Marine also gets shot by the range of the siege tanks, and it looks like AllAboutYou is going to have some map control over here. BioOrMech unable to move out, and BioOrMech getting his own Viking as well to deal with AllAboutYou's Viking.
Interestingly enough, AllAboutYou only operating with 1 Viking right now, hasn't expanded to more Vikings. If BioOrMech uses this reactor to really produce Vikings, he's going to be able to control the skies, and it's controlling the skies is what wins Terran versus Terran. But pushing in, absolutely destroying this push. Siege tank goes down, but he's actually going to back up because of the siege tank on the ridge. But that was an extremely nice push by AllAboutYou, taking away BioOrMech's only Viking.
And that combat shields did give him a huge advantage over the Marines that BioOrMech had. And they just kept those Marines alive, and they could just continue dishing out the damage.
An engineering bay going down for AllAboutYou. Neither player transition any kind of Thor. Still keeping with that tank Viking. BioOrMech probably needs to get this starport a little bit more use. Only producing 1 Viking anytime I've checked it so far. Needs to get that reactor in full spin.
Yeah,
finally starting to saturate his expansion.
Yeah, I completely agree, and it looks like AllAboutYou also getting engineering base, so he's probably going to get some upgrades going on for his infantry as soon as possible. He's also getting stim packs as well for his
infantry. Finally getting a reactor on his starport.
So we might see some medevacs finally coming out for AllAboutYou, and this could be the tipping scale of this match if he can get those medevacs out, because his Marines are already much stronger than BioMechs or BioOrMechs, but BioOrMechs is keeping a very, very defensive look going on over here. He's got a lot of siege tanks on the ridge over here, and AllAboutYou isn't going to be able to push in with his own siege tanks. The Viking,
if he can get some, go ahead.
The Viking is doing a little bit of scouting, and it looks like BioOrMech has 1 more Viking than AllAboutYou, and it does get sniped out.
There we go. That's the crucial moment in Terran versus Terran. If you can control the skies right now, all of AllAboutYou's siege tanks cannot shoot to their maximum range just because of sight problems right now. This is when BioOrMech can really take advantage, move his siege tanks just slightly in, move his Viking, and then get the required quick shots. Right now, as you see a siege tank firing away, the siege tanks can do nothing about it since they can't see anything in the sky. And up to 4 Vikings right now. Taking a quick look at the units tab. 4 Vikings to 2. BioOrMech, if he can continue to control the skies, he's just going to slow push all over AllAboutYou, and it's not going to be AllAboutYou for much longer.
Yeah, but AllAboutYou has a lot of SCVs going on in his base. He's got 50 SCVs, but he is starting to get mined out of his main. He needs to expand.
Taking the gold, though.
He's expanding the gold.
Oh, my bad.
Siege tanks finally shooting, getting a little bit of range with that scan. But BioOrMech caught a little bit out of position. He should have probably taken his units and sniped these 2 remaining siege tanks since they're so low, especially since he can see them with those Vikings, but opting to just let them sit out there. Very interesting stuff.
And AllAboutYou is just kind of sitting there, just deciding what he wants to do against those Vikings. If he can get a couple more Vikings, and he is getting 2 more, but that's still not going to be enough. Reinforcements coming in from AllAboutYou, getting a lot of Marines and a couple Marauders, and those medevacs are finally out, and they're going to start healing up. a couple of units being put in the medevac as well, so we might see a drop going on if he does push in.
BioOrMech really lost his opportunity to break that hold on front of his base. There was a few number of units, mostly in the red, a couple infantry units he could have pushed out,
like
but he allowed...
The Viking did spot the drop that was coming on, and they managed to snipe out that medevac, so losing a lot of units, and oh man, this could be bad. AllAboutYou did lose a medevac full of Marines and Marauders.
But he is mining off of gold, already operating off of a third base. It looks like he's preparing to take a fourth base with that SCV he's sending out. Possibly could just be a scout, but probably going to be a fourth base. And now he's getting comfortable putting his feet up and building a turret right outside of BioOrMech's base. BioOrMech needs to break out and get some expansion on, or he's going to lose this game just due to macro.
But BioOrMech is starting to push in, and he is taking out a lot of these Vikings, but those Marines are going to move forward and try to take out those Vikings. And that missile turret can be the breaking point for BioOrMech. Now, forcing BioOrMech, not allowing those Vikings to get close enough for sight, or else getting shot down. BioOrMech getting more Marauders, and if he gets enough Marauders, you can basically snipe out the AllAboutYou siege tanks. He doesn't actually have that many siege tanks compared to BioOrMech's. BioOrMech has, I think, one siege tank advantage, but it's kind of just sitting at the ridge over here. So
looks like BioOrMech is definitely just flustered by this attack. If you take a look at his minerals and gas, he's up to 1,500 in minerals and 1,000 gas. That is quite a few units that are not units right now.
Yeah, if
he really needs to clamp down and just concentrate on what he's doing.
Actually, I think he should produce a couple more factories or a couple more starports so he can really outmass AllAboutYou. AllAboutYou getting that command center up, and he also moved a Marine down here to scout out, making sure that BioOrMech doesn't just fly a command center down here.
And sniping out the medevacs and the Vikings, getting a little bit of damage, but those tanks from AllAboutYou just did some big damage to those bio balls. And here we go, running into units, sniping the siege tank. Ooh, absolutely gorgeous. That's exactly what BioOrMech needs to do.
Yeah, he did take out that siege tank, but he did lose all those Marauders. So, but AllAboutYou right now is just rolling in minerals and gas, so he can afford to do that. And it looks like BioOrMech getting a couple medevacs in, and he's trying to do a drop over here, and AllAboutYou is going to be able to spot this with a couple of these Marines, and they're going to stem up. Those Marauders are going to be easily take those Marines out.
But a giant ball of reinforced units by AllAboutYou is going to run right into this and most likely clean this right on up.
And the medevacs did get sniped out, so those Marauders have nowhere to go, and those Marine Marauders are going to be able to finish off those Marauders.
Now the game is really going to change pace. Just take a quick look at BioOrMech's home base. He is completely almost mined out, only going to be operating off of one base as opposed to the three bases after AllAboutYou's mined out. The lead is just going to get worse and worse unless BioOrMech can bust out or float in a command center out and get an early expansion, or excuse me, a late expansion.
Yeah, BioOrMech is just getting starved out now. He needs to get another base or else he's going to be in real trouble economy-wise. That second base is still relatively healthy, but if he does not get that second base, he's just going to get outmassed over here.
Taking a quick look between our break, AllAboutYou has set up missile turrets all around of BioOrMech's base. A complete old school surround with missile turrets to see anything that comes out. BioOrMech is going to be surprised if he tries anything sneaky. He just needs to break this front because it's not going to work with any kind of sneaky drops with those missile turrets all around. And Viking against Viking, he has so many more Vikings than AllAboutYou. AllAboutYou really needs to take control of these skies, especially since he has such a macro advantage. The one who controls the skies is the one who wins the game most of the time in Terran vs. Terran, but he might just be suffocated down because he hasn't got the macro that AllAboutYou's got right now.
Yeah, and AllAboutYou, honestly, I'd like to see a couple Banshees get pumped out. If you could just put that starport on one of the many tech labs that he has that are only building Marines anyway. Then he
and BioOrMech finally pushing out. Not to interrupt you, but it's just stomped down. Not a chance. Just too many units. Waited too long. He needed to do that 1,000 times sooner. But now, when AllAboutYou had a nearly maxed army, BioOrMech decided to push out, but it does not matter, and it's a good game. BioOrMech is knocked out, and we're moving on to game. He is not knocked out. He gets to choose the next one because this is best of 3. I'm thinking it was yesterday. Today is today. Yesterday was yesterday.
Yeah, these are the semifinals, so this is going to be game 2. And now So we're gonna go into game 2 immediately. So we'll see what map that
I'm asking him right now.
yeah, BioOrMech's gonna choose. I'm gonna stop fraps here. Hold on.